I see dead people. I see sage people. Girl, Queen Dee Dee with Dee Dee Said It. Yes, yes, yes. I'm trying to be in a good mood, y'all. People's good and bad people's, but I don't know if I can be. Mother arrested after kids found living alone for years. Dumbass. In Oakland County. This video is just one of the videos. Well, I got a slew of them, so ain't no sense in me giving you how much time it is. On this particular video, it's 3 minutes and 4 seconds. I first want to begin as to find out what in the hell and who the hell this lady is that make her feel she can pull some dumbass, smart ass, ignorant ass, retarded ass stunt like that. But let's just find out what happened, because I don't know the story. I'm looking at the title.
Well, the pictures are hard to look at. Police in Pontiac say 3 children were found living alone in deplorable conditions after discovering their mother had abandoned them for years. Our Victor Williams is following the story for us tonight. Victor, we're learning that mother has been arrested. What else can you tell us?
Yeah, that's right. The mother has been arrested, Pam, but we're told that these kids were actually inside of this house for years, at least since 2021. This is the house behind me that has that orange sticker right there on the window. But we're told these kids were only 12, 13, and 15. Now, authorities, they said that the mom would drop off food from time to time, but she's a 34-year-old woman that's now being held at the Oakland County Jail, with a case now being turned over to the prosecutor for review. We are expecting charges to come in the next few days or so, but the only reason authorities ever stepped in the first place was because the landlord actually called 911. He contacted deputies after not hearing from the mother since about December, and that's what started this welfare check. Take a look at some of this video from inside of the place. We're told that the house was just so unsanitary that evidence techs, they had to wear hazmat suits in order to investigate. Now, we're talking about piles of garbage in rooms as high as 4 feet tall, human feces overflowing in the toilet, and then also the bathtubs. Apparently, they were living on that food that people would bring nearby. Even also, strangers would sometimes bring that food up to the door. Now, also, we are being told that the mother had not spoken to the 2 girls that were in there for years, but she would go and actually speak to the son from time to time. The kids were not in school. They actually spent their entire time at the home watching TV and then playing video games. The conditions in the house were so bad that the kids had to sleep on the floor, the boy had a mattress, and the girls had to sleep on pizza boxes. So we're actually going to go and hear from Sheriff Michael Bouchard on what these kids are now having to go through, as well as what they now have to bounce back from.
Our first focus is in trying to make sure these kids get what they need to begin the process of moving forward. The second very important part of this is, how did 3 kids fall through the cracks so terribly? How did the community, relatives, the schools, no one knew to reach out to us? How did that happen? And so that's going to be a big part of what I've already directed our investigations to figure out.
Now, while all of this was going on inside of the house, we're told that they ended up finding the mother at a different location. And so we're going to have more on what residents living nearby they have to say about this. That's coming up at 11 p.m. Victor Williams, Local 4.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I found out about this on my way into work this afternoon, and there are no words. I mean, this is absolutely horrific. This is by far, I think, one of the worst stories we've ever covered here at Fox 2. And I want to warn everybody out there that the details are very disturbing.
If you think about the horrific ads you see on TV to spur donations for animals that have been abused or are living in terrible conditions, multiply that by 10.
A horrible story of abuse and abandonment. Investigators say 3 kids were living in a condo on Lydia Lane in Pontiac for years, alone in horrific conditions.
There was garbage trash piled 3 and 4 feet high, covered with feces all through the house. It doesn't look like the toilet or the bathtub had been usable or workable for quite some time, primarily because of the feces and trash. I don't think they had basic hygiene knowledge of what to do. They hadn't been given hygiene products for years, toothbrushes, etc.
A 15-year-old boy and 2 girls ages 12 and 13 in the House of Horrors since at least 2021, according to the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. Their mother or someone else would leave prepared food on the porch once a week.
They had basically been locked in the house without any kind of guidance or basic hygiene or any kind of education for years.
The kids were discovered Friday. The landlord called police and asked them to do a welfare check because he had not heard from the mother since December.
We went to the house to check on what was going on there and had no idea that there were kids there, let alone kids in grave situation.
Their 34-year-old mother arrested and being held at the Oakland County Jail. The children taken to an area hospital and are now in the care of a family member.
We showed up at the house. The young boy did have communication with the mom and said the police were there, and she said hide. When we took the kids out of the house, they had difficulty walking because their toenails were so long. They hadn't had any grooming. Incredibly disheveled and unkempt, hair very matted, filthy.
Authorities trying to figure out how this abuse went on for so long without anyone knowing about it.
It's pretty heartbreaking that the kids would have to live under those conditions. People just kind of get in their car and go. Another of my neighbors, we were just talking today, and she said to me, she says, look at all this snow. I don't see anybody out helping each other, shovel each other's snow. So I think people are just kind of just doing their own thing now and just kind of going in their places and closing the doors.
It's still just so incredibly hard to believe that these kids were in this condo for so many years, never seeing the sunlight, never trying to leave. They were apparently spending their time watching TV and playing games, not in school. We know that they had been enrolled in Pontiac schools years ago, but what happened? Why did they fall through the cracks? And it just, I mean, it's mind-boggling. The girls that we talked about, ages 12 and 13, the sheriff says they were sleeping on pizza boxes, old pizza boxes. A lot more to come on this story, but just absolutely heartbreaking. Reporting live, Camille and Mary, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, heartbreaking doesn't even begin to describe it. It's deplorable, it's despicable, it's disgusting, and I think it's really poignant what this woman said at the end of your piece, that people maybe aren't paying attention. Did the sheriff address anything in that realm, that folks need to maybe think a little more about what's happening next door and speak up if they see anything suspicious, so something like this doesn't have to go on for so long?
Yeah, I talked to another neighbor, and she'd only lived there since September, and she said she never heard anything, saw anything, smell anything. Those condos are so close together, but I think that, it makes us pause and just think how busy we all are in our own lives. But maybe we need to think, if we never see anyone coming and going, and maybe if we see, people did see that food being dropped off at that porch, that maybe we need to start asking more questions and start figuring out what's going on if something doesn't seem right. But I mean, why these kids were basically, they were locked in there for at least 4 years. I mean, like you said, this story is, it's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, and I did discuss it with my client.
Okay, all right.
I am, yes.
Okay, and have you read and reviewed that?
On this segment right here, this is actually the mom. This is Miss Pickaninny Head right here. Ain't your mama head? This is her right here, Miss Abuser, Miss Neglector, Miss didn't want to be a mom, Miss had her child when she was a teenager, Miss all of that in one, and just didn't want to be bothered with her kids. So she left her kids somewhere home, stuck in the house, probably on housing, because they did have a roof on their head. It was a filthy, nasty, disgusting, disgraceful, pitiful, disgusting house that was left over their head, and they had a house according to their mammy. This is so horrific and disgusting to I can't even fathom the goddamn thought. I'm so glad I read this right here, and it say mom in Pontiac abandonment case gets a $250,000 $50 million bond on child abuse charges. And yes, that damn for sure was child abuse charges, but I could tell you this, I've seen other kind get way less than that and was able to bond out. Their house was in despicable, deplorable condition. And I seen other videos too where I need to post one where it was a house in horrible condition too. I guess the difference was the dad was at home in a nasty condition with him, with a $30,000 bond. Anyway, I'm not going to compare apples to oranges and pieces to grapes. And don't get in my comment and be smart about it either, because y'all know I'm going to get you. No. This is her bond hearing. And I'm definitely not done with her. Ms. Moccasin, I don't know what happened in her family. I'm not even going to do another intro on this video because I'll get too mad. I'll get too mad, too upset, too livid. And these kids can't speak for themselves. That's why I feel like my brownie cakes, she's my responsibility now. And I'm going to make sure of it. This is what happens when we allow things to fester and escalate like this. When kids are younger, until they get older, they grow up and it becomes embedded in them. And sometimes they don't know how to get out of that. And one thing about it, those kids are going to need some true therapy. They're going to need therapy. And those kids are going to need love. And I hope that somebody give it to them. I don't know how much I would trust the family unless the mom actually isolated the kids from the family. But this is very heart-wrenching for me, and it's horrific to know that kids are still being treated like this. Shame on y'all.
I did do that in the breakout room, Yana. Sorry, there's a lot of feedback, I think, from the jail screen. I think that's our problem right now.
Our problem
but
is
yes,
from the
I
jail
did review
screen.
it and I talked to her.
Okay, all right, so they're recommending release with conditions in this matter. So we're gonna go from there. We have the PCC date. I'm gonna have you speak to bond, and then I'll make my decision as to bond. And I'll also have prosecution speak to bond. Ms. Carragano, you asking the court to accept the recommendation as provided by pretrial services?
I am, Your Honor. MCR 6.106, if you go through those conditions, provide that a personal recognizance bond with any conditions should be provided unless Ms. Bryant fell under some of the very specified exceptions to a personal bond that are listed. The court can also provide a cash bond if the court finds that Ms. Bryant is either a risk to the community or a flight risk. This particular case is serious, and we're not denying that it's a very serious case. However, I don't believe that the facts and circumstances of the case give any indication that Ms. Bryant is a risk to the community at large. In addition to that, there is no indication that Ms. Bryant is a flight risk. She's a lifelong resident of the county. She was residing within the city limits of this community. She, was employed and she has ties to the community. In speaking to her, she also is asking that the court consider a tether, which could be part of a bond if the people had any concerns that she posed a flight risk. I do think, the recommendation from pretrial services is in line with the Michigan court rules, understanding that it is a very serious offense. But the court rules are what they are. And they do provide that Ms. Bryant should be released on a personal bond with conditions, so that's what I'm asking the court to do.
Ms. Green, would you like to address the court regarding bond in this matter?
Thank you, Your Honor. I did have the opportunity to look at the pretrial services report. I know, Your Honor, just swear to facts yesterday, and that those are fresh in your memory.
Please. I'm going to mute the jail. Camera, and go ahead, Ms. Green.
Thank you. I did have the opportunity to review the pretrial services report. I know that Your Honor just listened to the swear to facts yesterday, and I'm sure that those are fresh in your memory. I am requesting in this case, I do agree with Ms. Kirandando regarding MCR 6.106 to the extent that you may not deny bond, but this court has the authority to put in place a high cash bond with conditions. And I believe that it appears that Ms. Bryant is not employed and that her resident status may be transient. So I consider her, and I think that the facts of this case portray her as a potential flight risk, and that there are 3 victims in this case that she should absolutely be prohibited from having contact with. So I'd ask that the court add a specific no contact provision as it relates to the 3 minor victims in this case. And if the court would like me to go on, I can.
No, what I found very suspicious in the report for pretrial services, there's 2 different addresses given to her. So I agree with you, Ms. Green, that one could opine that she's transient. She's from here, she's from there. We don't know where she resides. I do find her an acute risk and danger to the community and to any minor children under the age of 18, let alone the 3 minor children that she is a mother to. With that in mind, I agree with Ms. Caragano. I cannot deny her bond. That is, of course, my first knee-jerk reaction was to deny her bond. However, because I find her acute danger, I find her a continued danger to the children. My main concern is, I don't know who, if anyone, that the children have been given to. If it is a family member, I'm concerned that she still may have contact with the family member from the jail with instructions to continue to engage in fear tactics to forbid the children from cooperating with authorities in their continued investigation in this matter. For that reason alone, I'm giving her a $250 million bond in this matter, cash only. The other aspects, should she post that bond, she is not to have any contact with these children by family members, third-party agents, or friends. So, Ms. Bryant, I want you to understand, any phone calls from the jail, should you're unable to post this bond, is recorded. Should the court find out that you are sending messages to engage in further fear tactics and intimidation of the children, your phone privileges will be removed. You're not to have, in fact, any contact should you post this bond with any children under the age of 18. In this matter, if you post this bond, you should be supervised by pretrial services, no alcohol or drugs, no weapons or firearms, and a GPS tether with a verified address, because I'm concerned pretrial services has indicated 2 different reported addresses for you. I don't believe anyone knows where you have been staying, madam. There's no consistent history. Anything further regarding the bond, Ms. Caragano, Ms. Green?
Just ever so briefly, they had no issues finding my client to arrest her. So I just want the record to be clear on that.
Ms. Green?
Your Honor, you have before you information that the defendant has been lying about her whereabouts, the whereabouts regarding what she was telling where the children were. So you have a lot in this record in terms of inconsistencies with her location and the information that she's given to put in place this high cash bond.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your cooperation in this matter. Ms. Bryant, you are thanked and excused from the camera.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I found out about this on my way into work this afternoon, and
there's nothing I could say about this case other than how annoyed, pissed off, disgusted, just anything you could think of on those lines. That's the way I feel. Honestly, I have seen some cruel cases, and all of them hit home the same way in the end. I mean, kids being abused, and so look how the outside look. Never knowing what's going on in the inside of somebody's home is disgusting. It's not that it's our business to know what goes on in your home, but that still don't give you the right to mistreat and abuse kids and have them living like that. And she walking around with her head full of wig on. I mean, I want to be so upset, and y'all know how I could go in. For some reason, it's like I don't even have the strength. This is so deplorable that adults think that they could treat children like this. Imagine how adults treat other adults, and at least an adult can fight back. You talking about kids that don't even know how to fight back. They probably don't even, they in their head, nothing was wrong. It's so heart-wrenching, Lord. And they supposed to be one of the ones that are taken care of. I'm just glad that the landlord, after all these damn years, finally decided to do something. I mean, when was the last time you went in your rented home? I mean, goddamn. Like, nobody noticed nothing. Nobody thought, who is food being delivered to? We never see anybody come out the door. I mean, at what point did these people move there? At what point did these kids ever go out the door? At what point did they start being isolated in the home? And on top of that, what happened to the mom? Like, what made her flip like this? While she's sitting in jail, she also should be going through counseling. This is your girl, Queen Dee Dee with Dee Dee Said It. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you don't do anything else. I said, guess what I'm about to do? I got to go, and I promise y'all I got to free my mind. I have to decompose because this is like a gut punch in the stomach. Men time. Men. Psst. I see dead people. I see sage people. Men time. Men.
Here, free throw, man down, call an ambulance, tell him, please, bro, Nella.